There's something weird about watching a grown man in a polo shirt and loafers have a meltdown in your driveway, especially when that man is the HOA president, red-faced and practically foaming at the mouth because I wouldn't open my gate. Yeah, my gate, my property. He pounded on the intercom like a toddler denied candy at the store, screaming that he had full authority under Section 9.3 of the HOA Charter. I didn't even live in his HOA. That's what made it so delicious. The best part? The cops didn't arrest me. They didn't even take him seriously. When they heard my reason for locking him out, one officer straight up laughed and said, "You're kidding me, right?" I wasn't. And it was about to get a whole lot worse for him. Because what the president didn't know was that I'd been recording everything. And I don't just mean the cameras on my gate. I mean audio, paper trail, emails, the whole thing. This was the final straw in a saga that started with a letter in my mailbox and ended with an HOA scandal so embarrassing. The board had to hold an emergency vote. Let's rewind a bit. Because to understand why he showed up at my gate, begging for access like a salesman in July, you need to know how this started and what I did to deserve his unhinged little driveway performance. Spoiler, I wasn't the villain here, but I played one, just long enough to win. It started with a note on my gate. Taped, not tucked, not mailed, but aggressively taped like a warning sign at a construction site. It read, "Dear resident, you are in violation of community standards under the Meadow Oaks HOA. Please schedule an inspection with the HOA President before the 15th, or fines will accrue." Now, Meadow Oaks starts half a mile from my house. I don't live in it. Never signed into it. My property is one of 3 grandfathered parcels from back when this land was still pasture and pecan groves. It even says so in the county records, clear as day. Not part of HOA jurisdiction. So I laughed. Thought it was a clerical error. Until the next note came. And then an email. And then a visit. HOA President Daniel Crowley, a man who looked like he practiced his power stance in the mirror, showed up at my fence line, arms crossed, clipboard in hand. "Sir, you need to remove the RV from view. It violates line of sight standards." I blinked. "I don't live in your HOA." He smirked. "You're adjacent. That gives us authority over border-facing lots. It's in the charter." I didn't laugh. I just stared. "Adjacent?" I repeated. "So now geography determines legal control?" He didn't like that. The next week, a notice of violation was stapled. Yes, stapled to one of my oak trees. Apparently, my non-compliant mailbox was next. Then the backyard chicken coop. Then my trash can placement. It became a game. He'd send a notice, I'd ignore it. But then, he crossed a line. I got home one day and noticed my gate had been opened, remotely. I checked the logs. Someone had spoofed my signal. The system I'd paid for, hardwired with security in mind, had been hacked. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a nosy neighbor. This was a power trip. The final push came when he invited himself into my backyard while I was at work. Caught on camera, standing near the pool, hands on hips, like he owned the place. That footage? Priceless. So I did what any sane person would do. I locked down the property. New codes. Motion sensors. Access control. Anyone without a registered device got denied permanently. Guess who showed up the next day demanding entry? You got it. Clipboard in hand. Rage in his eyes. And that was just the beginning. The next few weeks were a parade of passive-aggressive tactics and legal posturing. First came the fines, mailed with fake invoices, marked final warning. Then a bogus lien notice. He even tried to report me to the county, said I was operating a business from a residential lot. Why? Because I had a home office and a FedEx package out front. Then came the sabotage. My sprinklers were suddenly disconnected. My mailbox mysteriously went missing. Someone, likely Daniel, tried to cut the lock on my shed. You don't mess with a man's shed. The kicker? He hosted an HOA emergency meeting on the cul-de-sac near my house and listed me as a guest speaker. I wasn't invited. Neighbors started knocking on my door, confused, asking why I was delaying community beautification efforts. That's when I realized he was rewriting the HOA minutes to make it seem like I was part of the association, that I was a rogue member causing drama. That's defamation. So I went quiet, gathered everything: emails, video clips, tampering footage, legal proof I was outside HOA jurisdiction. Even GPS-mapped overlays showing my land wasn't included in any bylaws. And while he was busy trying to get a city ordinance passed that would restrict RV parking, wonder who that was targeting. I hired a land use attorney. The plan was forming. All I needed was one more move from him. And boy, did he give it to me. He tried to force entry onto my property. That's where everything changed. It was a Saturday morning. Calm. Birds chirping. Coffee brewing. Then buzz. Intercom camera lit up. There he was. Daniel Crowley, standing at the gate. Sunglasses too small for his face, yelling into the mic. "You are obstructing official HOA duties." I clicked mute. He didn't like that. So he called the cops. Now, you'd think that would make me nervous, having the sheriff's department show up. But I was ready. When the two officers arrived, I invited them onto the front porch, played them the footage, showed them the property survey, explained the spoofing attempt. They started chuckling by the third clip. "So wait," one officer said, pointing at the screen. "He's trying to enter a property not even in his HOA?" "Yep." "And claiming legal access?" "Yep." "And he listed you as part of the HOA without your consent?" I nodded. They looked at each other. One of them said, "Yeah, we're going to need a statement." As they walked back toward the gate, I watched from the window as they calmly informed Daniel that he was not allowed on my property, had no legal authority over my land, and that any further attempts would result in criminal trespass charges. He turned red. Real red. The kind of red you only get from realizing you just exposed yourself. And the whole board. The next morning, I emailed the footage and documents to the entire HOA board and posted a "not affiliated with Meadow Oaks HOA" sign at the front, with a QR code linking to the video. 3 days later, I got a call from a very flustered woman, the HOA vice president. "Mr. Teller, I just want to clarify. You're not part of the HOA." I could hear the panic. "Correct," I said. "And I never have been." Silence. "We're conducting an internal review." Translation: the board was imploding. By the end of the week, Daniel had been removed as president. The board issued a formal apology, in writing, and notified all residents that Mr. Teller's property lies outside the jurisdiction of Meadow Oaks HOA. But I wasn't done. I filed a formal complaint for impersonation, unauthorized access, and defamation. And at the next public county meeting, I spoke, read a full statement, laid out the harassment timeline, the forged documents, the entry attempt, and I brought a USB drive with footage. The crowd gasped at the pool scene, the mailbox tampering, the officers laughing. I ended my speech with this: HOAs exist to protect communities, not to satisfy personal vendettas or invent authority where none exists. Let this be a reminder. The property line is not a suggestion. The county voted to investigate. Daniel? He moved 2 towns over. The HOA voted in a brand new board. Justice had been served. And I didn't have to lift a finger. Just a finger to press record. It's funny how a small gate can become a symbol of something bigger. Mine became the boundary between someone else's power fantasy and my actual property rights. Daniel thought he could use fear, fake authority, and paperwork to bully me into submission. What he got instead was exposure, accountability, and cops who couldn't help but laugh. So what's the takeaway? Know your rights. Document everything. And never, ever underestimate the power of a good camera and a quiet plan. You don't have to shout to win. Sometimes, silence and strategy are louder than any HOA megaphone. If you made it to the end, comment, "Justice served." And tell me, what would you have done if someone tried to claim authority over land they didn't own? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's ever dealt with HOA nonsense. And to Daniel, wherever you are, hope the new neighborhood has better fences, because mine, they hold tightly.